My presentation is about the Blithedale Romance novel by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Nathaniel Hawthorne was an American novelist and short story writer born on July 4, 1804, in Salem, Massachusetts. He attended Bowdoin College and graduated in 1825. Nathaniel Hawthorne worked as an editor in his early career. He authored short stories such as Young Goodman Brown and The Minister's Black Veil. He worked on a farm named Brook Farm to pay for his marriage to Sophia Peabody. Experiences on Brook Farm inspired his novel, The Blithedale Romance. The Blithedale Romance is Nathaniel Hawthorne's third romantic novel written during the Romantic period in 1852. The mysterious plot includes a love triangle in a small town with secrets about relationships, affections, and affairs. Reading the book evoked feelings of confusion and frustration for me. The main characters include Miles Coverdale, Hollingsworth, Zenobia, and Priscilla, and the supporting characters include Professor Westervelt, Mrs. Foster, Silas Foster, and Old Moody. At the beginning, the story feels really confusing. Cloverdale first encounters Moody, but Moody doesn't reveal his purpose. And then we read about Cloverdale moving to Blithedale and meeting a character named Zenobia. Another new character named Hollingsworth is introduced into the scene, and he arrives with a character named Priscilla. Yet Hollingsworth clings to Zenobia. Cloverdale and Hollingsworth then become friends when Cloverdale gets sick and Hollingsworth cares for him through his illness. The mysterious plot begins to get even more interesting and a little bit difficult to follow at times, yet predictable. But Zenobia and Hollingsworth begin to date. Mr. Moody, the character that we read about in the beginning, begins to visit Priscilla, inquiring about the relationship with Zenobia and Hollingsworth. And another character in the plot, Professor Rusty, arrives and tells Zenobia secrets about Priscilla. During that same time, Cloverdale realizes that Priscilla loves Hollingsworth and is hurt by his relationship with Zenobia. Hollingsworth chooses Priscilla and Zenobia commits suicide. Cloverdale then reveals his love for Priscilla. And we discover in the end that Priscilla and Zenobia were actual sisters and Mr. Moody was their father. The setting was Brook Farm in Blithedale's community during the mid-1800s. The novel's themes include secrets and unfaithful human hearts, sin and guilt, and ideology versus reality. The symbolism in this novel is, first of all, it's definitely a dark romantic novel. Failure, sadness, and guilt, discontentment and wanting, and the ills of society and religion, and transcendentalism. Believe I pronounced that right. Transcendentalism. I've been working on that. And one other thing that I don't have here that I can definitely see is the way that the men view the women during that era, and how Priscilla and Zenobia seem to be the weaker vessels in this novel. As a literary work, again, this is a dark romantic novel, which was really heavy during that era. Again, it had the transcendentalism view, which was also heavy amongst authors who would produce literary works such as this, and it was intellectual movement. I found that was one of the things that it was criticized for, was the structural difficulties, and the idea of transcendentalism versus morality, and how those ideas go together, how you can support individualism and individual thought versus faith and morale. And lastly, the speculation that this work was actually about the life of Nathaniel Hawthorne, and that he was actually talking about his life, which would make this a nonfiction novel versus a fiction novel. Overall, I could definitely see how the novel supported the transcendentalism view, and for me, it wasn't necessarily a work that I was pulled into. It evoked feelings of frustration and confusion. A lot of times reading, trying to understand the plot, the ideas, the secrets, and the fantasies that led to destruction. And I did add this, and I spoke on this earlier, the patriarchy views were exposed in the way that Zenobia and Priscilla seemed to be the weaker vessels. I thought the novel was typical and sometimes predictable, even through some of the structural difficulties. You could kind of see where the love triangle was headed. Overall, for me, it was not a interesting literary work, but I would be willing to delve a little deeper and perhaps read it again. Per the instructions, my works cited page is a Word document that's attached and submitted with this assignment as a separate file and not as a part of the PowerPoint presentation.